people joining us. I'm Martin. I'm one of the two partners of Dualoop. For the one who don't know me, I'm going to say a few words here just to set the logistics and set Tey up, and then I'll give him the floor. Right? So a couple of things. This is our product Apéro. We do that every month or so. Next one is on the 10th of December. It's going to be online, and it's one of Tey's friends, Lindsay Wynn, who's going to be speaking to us as well. Other point of logistic, we'll have Tey just give us his thoughts on building AI native products, and then we will be surprised by light and have a short conversation where you can also bring your questions, right? Towards the end, towards 8 p.m., we'll then have pizza coming. I will have one task for all of you, is to help me move all of the chairs away so that we have room to eat. Sounds good? Yes. Right. So it's my pleasure to introduce Tey. And I was thinking a little bit, how am I going to introduce him? And then I was reminded of the first time I heard about Tey, and I don't think you know this anecdote.
I don't know what you're going to say, man.
No. And so I think I saw you and I heard about you and I was like, who's that dude? Like, I don't know him. And we both worked at McKinsey, so it's a relatively small world in digital space. I was like, who's that guy? And I asked one of our common friends, Marv, okay, but who's Tey? Like, what does he do? And he was like, he's one of these annoying people. I'm like, okay, that starts nicely. He's one of those people that actually knows how to code, how to design, how to talk in a boardroom, and how to speak about strategy. I was like, okay, that's a nice introduction. And then he was like, and on top of it, he actually knows how to dress. So I'm very happy to welcome Tey today, just to talk and give us our thoughts on building AI and native in products.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me do a loop. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for kind of spending your evening here. I know, yeah, like there's so many other things you could be doing, so really, thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Awesome. So I'm going to talk about building AI native products, but I'll start a little bit with who I am, beyond what Martin just said. You should also have cards on your chairs, a pink and a blue card. We're going to hang on to them. We're going to use them in a minute. So yeah, should be fun. So I'll start super quickly. So yes, I can code. I studied computer science at university, and that's kind of how I got my start in technology. So like a lot of my kind of first jobs were at big companies where I was a full stack dev. So a lot of work at travel companies where we were building booking engines for holidays and flights and everything. So kind of connecting disparate systems and bringing together data from multiple places and surfacing it to users. But then I kind of got bored of working with big companies and I moved into the startup world. But when I started working with startups, I guess I was always like a creative kid. And so I took the opportunity to kind of move more into the pure front end and kind of move more into UX. And I found that I was actually better at that than coding. So kind of worked for a few years at a variety of startups and startup incubators. Then I moved into digital agencies and creative studios where it evolved to kind of more pure UX and customer research, but also a lot more product strategy. And then 9 years ago, I started working for a company called McKinsey, which is a large management consultancy, lots of big corporate clients and governments and so on. And again, the type of work I do evolved to what McKinsey called digital business building, which is essentially helping a big company create a startup and create a new business where you're doing everything from branding to building a team to building a platform from scratch. And then 7 years ago, McKinsey acquired a company, or maybe 8 years ago, called Quantum Black, which does AI. So they were doing a lot of machine learning models for Formula One. So taking real-time data from cars and using those models to help drivers and race teams. And McKinsey acquired that company and essentially took that capability to go, how can we help banks and governments and so on use the same type of techniques? And so I started doing a lot of AI implementation work around 7 years ago, where a lot of the stuff was building machine learning models and customer lifetime value models, and then using that insight to essentially help a company grow or help a company do something that they hadn't done before. And then 2 or 3 years ago, generative AI came along, and now every single client started asking us, hey, what do we do about AI? How do we build the right teams, and so on. And so a lot of my work evolved into digital strategy work as well, helping companies just decide what is the right thing to do, what's the right thing to go about, and what are the things that we should avoid as well. A lot of my work was with banks, banking, and retail, so grocery companies, fashion brands, and so on. So like that's a bit of who I am. Now we're going to get into the fun part. That was the boring part. So you have a pink card and a blue card. I'm going to put some statements up on screen. And this is just to get a sense of the room, like a feeling for the room. So you're going to see a statement. And if it's... Oh, I might have the colors wrong. Shit. Okay. I'm definitely not colorblind. So I think if it's blue, it's a thumbs up. It's yes. If it's pink, it's a no. Okay, it's orange. Fuck. So first statement. Let's get a sense of the room. Who thinks the whole AI thing is a bubble? Blue for if you agree, pink for if you disagree.
It's just a bubble, or it is a bubble? Because like it can be both a bubble and still useful.
Yeah. Oh, it is a bubble. So yeah, that's a good call out. So it's not just a bubble if you think part of what we're in right now is a bubble. Up high so everyone else can see as well. Oh, it's mixed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. Okay. Oh, do you guys not have cards over there? Oh, we can get some cards, yeah. All right, I was surprised. I thought we were kind of in a group of pessimists where everyone would be blue. But okay, next one. AI has made our teams more productive. So, okay, it's like 90% blue?
Yeah.
Some pink. I'm curious, you had pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us more.
I think we've been able to do more, but it's like not fundamentally more productive yet.
I see. Anyone else have pink? Thanks for sharing. Yes.
It is my belief that it made individuals faster or more productive, but not necessarily the group or the team.
Yeah. I think that's been my experience as well. Anyone have blue that was like a strong blue and they're like, yeah, we're like 10x more productive? No, okay. Next one. My company has launched AI features in the products we build. Okay, oh, it's like 75% blue. Keep them up. And they made the product better. Oh, that's fascinating. It's like 50-50. So I'm going to pick you. So tell us about products you guys build and how it's made better by AI.
All our clients are asking for AI.
Yeah.
Based. So I'm part of the consulting firm as well. It has created new opportunities to serve them better.
Mm.
But again, it's back to the previous question. It can fire back as well.
Yeah.
In cases, it creates a lot of fluff and stuff, but it doesn't really serve them. So,
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? Thanks for sharing. I'm going to pick you. You had blue, right?
Me, right?
Yeah.
What was the question again?
My company has launched AI features in the products we build, and they made the product better.
Right, I work in manufacturing.
Yeah.
We make mopeds, electric mopeds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we sell those. And there's two ways that we use AI. One is in pretty much like workflow. The team are definitely working more efficiently by just like cutting a lot of like previously manual work in client services, in like entire process management from factory producing to shipment to fulfillment. And then we now like very currently also having the AI in the product, like the drivable mopeds on itself, like with the camera that actually watches the driver, the rider as they drive, to detect emotions, to detect if the driver is too tired to keep driving. So yeah, I think it's not yet happening, but in the next generation of product, it's going to be something that makes it better.
That's really scary. But very cool. So I think one thing I've noticed is, like, not even noticed, I think there's a lot of data to verify this. Over the last 18, 24 months, I think basically every product company, every product has had some kind of announcement or press release talking about, hey, we now have AI. I think one of the first ones I saw was Slack. This was in 2024, and how they positioned it, it's a new chapter in our story. Who uses the AI features in Slack? One person. Yeah. And then, like, I saw this one, Workshop, which is a Slack competitor. I'd never heard of them. But now they say AI features position themselves as the clear leader in AI for internal communications. Who's heard of Workshop? Well, I think this is like a trend we're seeing. You know, Microsoft Teams revolutionizes. I mean, I love Teams. No, kidding. But like, you have Walmart, you have Braze, you have all these companies essentially saying, we now have AI in our products and services, and it's revolutionizing or completely changing the way kind of, you know, our product works or our customers. You even have like hardware now, like mopeds, where, you know, this was like a couple months ago, Google Pixel 10 could transform smartphones with advanced AI features. And then this is one of my favorites, WhatsApp to be flooded with more AI features despite user backlash. So it's basically like, our users hate it, but we're going to do it anyway. And I think this is just not even a trend. This is kind of the world we live in now, where essentially every company says we need to be doing AI in some way, and we're going to position it as this is going to completely transform everything. But it was the Google Pixel one that really made me go, like, is there any research to go, like, hey, are users or customers actually going, because the product has AI, I'm actually going to choose it, or AI has actually made the product better? And I found a really interesting piece of research. I think this was from Wired, and they asked customers, or asked kind of people all across the world, what motivates you to upgrade your phone? And this was in 2024. So it was really when kind of the AI wave. And I'm going to ask you to guess, where does AI sit?
E maybe.
E? Close. So it was D. AI was 18% of kind of people said AI is what motivates you to upgrade your phone. But interestingly, they ran the same survey a year later, this year, and it decreased to 11%. So, and like one of the biggest decreases of everything. And what doesn't appear here is price. Price was like the #1 thing, but it's interesting. Despite companies really saying AI is everything now, it's really not the case. And kind of at McKinsey, kind of like Martin said, I sat at a lot of boardrooms and executive meetings, and so I'm going to show you a little documentary of what tends to happen in these kind of big boardrooms of companies. Hopefully the audio works.
And as you can see, we go from that up to good.
This is nonsense.
Wait, hey, I.
Did you say AI?
Yes. AI. Generative AI. Yes.
Multi-crypto GPT mega AI.
Yeah, that's a documentary. No, I'm kidding. But I think like a big part of this is there is a lot of expectation that as an organization, if we're not doing AI, then we're going to be behind compared to our competitors and so on. And I think how this manifests itself. So I did a lot of work with grocery companies, where we were helping them essentially evolve their digital product, which is their kind of, you know, user-facing grocery website or app. And what tends to happen is you have kind of management say, okay, we need AI. And then you take kind of an experience that works very well, then you add some chat, then you kind of add an AI summary, you add AI search, and then like you add AI to the front of your product. And I think like the majority of products I see, it's essentially the same kind of template. And really no one really uses this. But I think, and I mean, I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, have you been in these situations where you get it from top down to go, hey, we need to be doing some AI stuff, and how does it manifest itself? Anyone want to put their hand up and share their experience? Or I'm gonna pick someone. You. You scratched your nose, so yes. No, in front of you. Yeah.
So I work in the energy industry, and we do have already AI in some of the algorithms that we use in order to understand patterns of how people use energy.
Yeah.
But of course, we had indeed our board asking, okay, so what's your AI strategy?
Yeah.
And they were not happy with only saying, well, we have it already.
Yeah.
And no, but what do you do more? What are going to be the new stuff that you're going to do? So we're still adjusting between what we know we work now and go towards, okay, how can we create new products? And usually it comes towards how can we help our existing customer basically be more efficient?
Yeah.
Via a better user experience, smoother user experience, so that the operation team can be more efficient, and then it's going to give a better experience towards the end customer.
Yeah. And I guess is there also a sense of we have to do this? Like there's no choice.
No, luckily no. We have to have an answer.
Okay.
We have to see what we mean to do, but it's not. Okay, you have to stop everything and have something there.
That makes sense. And I think, I mean, there's also like a lot of data and research that shows like when you look at most products and you look at the actual measurable user value they're driving, like there's no answer. No one's actually able to say, hey, all these AI features that we drove are moving anything beyond like AI adoption, or we're seeing kind of some users use these AI features. And so, again, I've done a lot of work in grocery, and over the last, over most of last year, we were helping a big grocery kind of company in the UK essentially evolve their product. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that experience, about how we use an integrated AI, about a lot of lessons from not just that, but other work I've done in this space. But the first thing I'm going to ask you guys to do is go to your favorite online grocery store. I'm going to give you guys like 3 minutes to do this, so you can like grab a drink and anything as well. And search for purple vegetable. Yeah. Not the emoji, just the actual words, yeah. I mean, you can do it in any language, yeah. If anyone actually sees purple vegetables, let me know.
I see purple bottle of shampoo.
Shampoo, perfect. Yeah.
I see vegetables, no purple.
Vegetables, but no purple.
No.
I see carrots.
I mean, at some point there must be an eggplant. I eat
And so when we started working with them, they actually came to us to say, hey, how can we use AI? We need to be doing something with AI. But our starting point was not, hey, let's implement some AI. Oh, you got something?
Yeah, aubergine.
No. You got what?
Aubergine as well. Uber.
Oh, which website?
Uber.
Okay, Uber, okay.
Yeah, I did get an aubergine as well, but very, very at the bottom.
At the bottom, yeah. You would expect that kind of in 2025, you have platforms that actually understand this, but
nothing but purple vegetables. Everything is purple vegetables.
Is that Google Images?
Yeah.
This is Brave.
Oh, like your web browser, yeah.
I got one that's pretty decent.
Nice.
From Chile.
Oh, but this is gross. So if you go to a grocery, yeah. And I think.
Oh.
So.
Oh, I'll take that back.
And so like if I go to like a lot of like the most popular kind of websites or grocery websites in the UK, so Tesco's one of the largest retailers. You get, I mean, what is this? A kitchen sink strainer, purple sprouting burnt. It's another one. You get purple garlic, purple broccoli. I did someone in Belgium. You get shampoo. Another one, Aldi. You get. And similarly, if you kind of type in a search query like this, again you get results that are completely unaligned with what you searched. So this is another big retailer. You get one item, which is quick milk sipper chocolate. This one you get one item, which is biscuit. This one is a little bit better. It says no products found, but these are the closest matching. But you also get like toothpaste and and sun cream. And the reason that happens is that almost every grocery search platform kind of is built on a catalog, and it's built on a catalog of products. And so when you search, it searches for the text within the catalog. So you search for bananas if there's something called bananas, or if bananas in the description. And a lot of the catalogs have been this way for decades. But within this, there are a lot of business rules. There's a lot of kind of meaning and a lot of kind of not just customer facing, but a lot of, okay, who are our suppliers, who are our preferred suppliers, how do prices change? And so for a large grocery company, for example, changing this would be like a multi-year thing. And so when you have something like, okay, can we use AI to completely change search? Yes, hypothetically, you could completely get rid of this and have kind of, a knowledge graph or something. But again, this has so much kind of, business legacy built into it. This is essentially the entire business. And so the problem we're facing is, okay, we had a client that said, hey, we need AI. All the work we've done and all the research that we've done said that if you help customers more quickly identify the products that they're looking for, that's where you're really going to make a difference. But a lot of the work we did was looking at the actual search kind of queries and looking at that data to go, what are customers searching for? And we quickly realized that a lot of the queries that customers are searching for are things like purple vegetables and quick breakfast for kids, and they're not getting those results at all. And again, the reason that happens is kind of, if I type something like cheese, again, it just matches against kind of the actual product names. And so this was kind of where we went, okay, how do we take what we understand from customers as one of the most painful things? How do we understand what's possible with large language models? And then how do we kind of marry the two without necessarily creating an AI feature? Because one thing that we understood is if you can make this invisible to customers and you can just surface the right products, they're much more likely to stick around, much more likely to actually kind of check out and buy something, but also much more likely to be loyal, to come back to you because you just made it easier for them to find what they're looking for. And in grocery, customers are just trying to find what they're looking for, buy it, and get it to themselves quickly. They're not looking to chat with something to kind of, to buy their milk. And kind of a lot of this is sanitized, so you don't see who the brand is. But what we ended up building gave us results like this. And the reason we were able to get to this is we did kind of a really deep analysis of the types of queries customers are making so that we could understand the types of intent that they have. So we have intent around, okay, I know what I'm looking for, but I don't know the exact name of it, like purple vegetable. I know it's a purple vegetable. Or I'm looking for something that is potentially like a group of things and I don't know your exact catalog, but help me find quick breakfast for kids. So what we essentially did was use large language models to essentially create an intent layer to go, a customer has a query, like purple vegetables, how can you translate that essentially into multiple SQL statements to then pull in from the catalog? But what you see, for example, is that this is a category called purple vegetables. That doesn't exist in the catalog, but the large language model creates that category and then pulls products in to that category. So to a customer, it looks completely seamless. It looks like, oh wow, they have a category called purple vegetables, which is exactly what I was looking for. But that all happens invisibly in the background. And then similarly, kind of if a customer goes bolognese, it gives them the ingredients to make bolognese because it understands that the intent is someone's making a recipe or is cooking a dish that's gonna give them those ingredients. And this worked really well. And what we also kind of realized we could start doing is we could start taking that customer intent and going, hey, here's how you can refine that. Here's what you might be looking for next. So kind of things like Italian pasta recipes, tomato-based sauces. So, and again, this isn't hard-coded in. This uses large language models at multiple points to draw that forward for a customer. And what we found, and we also kind of, we tested things like chat and customers hated it. Absolutely hated it. But then when we launched this, we kind of found just massive uplift in a lot of the metrics that really mattered. And at no point did this experience say that this uses AI. So customers had no idea that this was using a large language model or GPT, anything behind the scenes, but it just made their lives easier. And I think we started to take a lot of lessons from that. Last quick example that I'm going to show you is eggs. So when we started talking with the client, they actually said eggs are our most difficult thing. And we were like, what are you talking about? So if you think about eggs, so you have organic eggs, free-range eggs, you have eggs of different sizes and weights, you have eggs in dozens, half a dozens, so you have all these permutations. So when someone goes cheapest eggs, is it, okay, cheapest per egg, cheapest for 12 eggs, 6 eggs, so that, it's just one product category or subcategory where there's so many ways that you could surface and prioritize things to customers. And one thing they essentially said is, we have customers literally sitting there for like 10, 15 minutes trying to work out like which are the right eggs to buy. And so they said, if you can solve that, that's good. And so kind of with what we built, you could go cheapest organic eggs, and you would have categories going cheapest by the dozen or cheapest per egg. So essentially what we built matches to a customer's mindset and intent. And that's essentially what we were trying to do. How can we take the way our customers or users think, take what we're trying to do, and then use what a large language model is good at to actually surface that to a customer. Yeah.
Did you hard code that specific case, or how did you build that in?
Oh, that's a great question. So with eggs specifically, one thing that they had done over years was essentially have this complex set of prioritizations in the catalog for eggs, and so, but they also had a lot of really good tagging. So they had kind of, organic eggs, cage-free eggs, free-range eggs. So the only kind of piece of, not necessarily hard coding, the only thing we had to add to the intent layer for eggs is that translation. If someone goes kind of organic, you also include free-range because customers tend to mean the same thing. So that's the only kind of piece of work we had to do specifically for eggs, but what we were trying to build was to reduce that hard coding as much as possible, because over time they had all these rules in there that were also difficult to maintain. So part of the outcome of this was it was much easier to maintain their catalog because they didn't have to put all these complicated rules and overlays over it. And so I promised I'd give you some lessons. So this was kind of a really kind of fascinating piece of work for me because it was a set of problems I'd never had to solve before. But I think if I rewind to the beginning of the piece of work, I think we could have very easily gone, hey, we'll add some AI features, we'll add kind of, chatbot, we'll summarize things for customers, but we really kind of forced our hand and said, hey, let's not start with AI, let's start with what are those problems that customers face, and if we go back 5, 10 years and we go back over kind of your history. What are the problems that you've had that you've never been able to solve, and is it actually possible to do that now? And so that was a lot of the exercise up front, kind of really going, what's the art of the possible today, and then how can we kind of potentially solve those problems? And so essentially where we started was mapping the territory of real user problems with fresh eyes. And fresh eyes being what's really possible today, but also going back, kind of just like I said, because I think when you're working on a product, it can be very easy to just go, okay, this is our roadmap, this is our backlog, we're really heads down. And you kind of tend to have like a lot of kind of legacy problems that users face and legacy frictions that you never go back to. But this was really an exercise in going, okay, let's take a step back and look with fresh eyes. And I think this led to kind of a really interesting set of questions for us, which they hadn't looked at really before. So first was like, which tasks take disproportionately long relative to their value? Like spending 15 minutes looking for eggs. But also like, where the users soft abandon and come back later. So not necessarily they go away forever, but they might go away, come back 4 hours later. And those are things you don't typically measure, but if you look for, you can really find out what are those friction points that are not quite so annoying that customers leave you, but annoying enough that they go, I don't want to do this, I'll come back later. Another was, what information do users search for multiple times? And the last was, what processes happen outside our product that reference data inside it? So essentially, where are customers or users going off to either kind of, whether it's like to write to-do lists or whatever it might be that they can't do in our platform, but they feel like they should be able to do. And I think when you kind of look at this set of questions, essentially kind of it boils down to three things. So understanding context, constraints, and really value, like where's the real value for users? And I think that's one set of really important things that we did and that we kind of do every time. I think the other really important set of things is understanding what AI can actually do, what it can't do, and what's expensive to do. I think that last point is really interesting. So, for example, in the grocery piece, latency was a big issue. So if you're making multiple large language model calls, it can be 10, 15 seconds. And so the team had to work really hard to actually reduce that latency to an acceptable level for users. And kind of using things like LLM caching and so on. So kind of really developed a new set of techniques to reduce that, but also like it's costly. Like making kind of tokens are not, especially 18 months ago, were not cheap. So yes, there's stuff you can do with large language models and with reasoning models and with AI, but not everything actually scales when you have 10,000, 100,000 users. So really understanding what's expensive to do is important. But again, that leads to kind of a set of questions. So really understanding what can kind of AI do today. First one is content generation and transformation. But again, there are risks. So I think with each of these is understanding what are the risk factors. So with content generation, quality control, factual accuracy, a large language model, even the latest ones will never consistently give you the same output. But understanding that as this is just par for the course and this is what we're working with is important when you're going through, okay, what is actually possible and what can we do? Second thing that kind of, not large language models, but kind of traditional machine learning models are good for are pattern recognition at scale. But this requires a lot of data and it's only ever backward looking. I mean, you're building models on data, on historic data, and so it really reinforces existing patterns as opposed to helping you identify new user patterns. Third thing that kind of AI or large language model can do well is interpret natural language. So taking things like purple vegetables or quick breakfast for kids. But the risk there is hallucinations and lack of context. So kind of, people talk a lot about the context window. This is kind of where it really starts to play. And so with kind of the grocery example, we had to make decisions to go, okay, at what point do we continue to take a user's search queries as a single session? So if you go kind of, bolognese and then you go onions, do we take it as, okay, a user is on the same path, or do we reset it each time? So those types of decisions about context are important when you're trying to interpret natural language. Another thing that AI is good for is personalization based on behavior. this is something that you can kind of do really well if you have historic data, but you have what's called the cold start problem, where you have a brand new user, you don't have any data or information about them or their behavior. It's what do you do? How do you give them the same or similar experience as your historic users where you do have a lot of data? And it also needs real governance. You're using customer data in ways they may not understand. You have GDPR and consent issues, and so it really needs a real layer of governance there. Last thing you can do well is intelligent search and retrieval, but it requires a lot of tuning with respect to relevance, and there's complexity inherent in there. So a lot of things where you can build kind of a great demo for really quickly, you find that a lot of these kind of caution symbols on there start to kind of come into play when you think about how do you scale this into a real product. I think the other challenge is, and kind of these are ultimately questions about data, performance, and maintenance. I think performance is an important one. Performance is not just does it perform well, but like how much does it cost? Because again, with large language models, you're paying OpenAI, you're paying Anthropic, whoever it is, for that. And so performance, we also really had to go, okay, is this worth it? Because there's some problems that you can solve well with AI, but if it costs 10 times as much to solve the problem would give the user an experience as it does with just good design, there's really a question of should we be doing this? And then maintenance. I mean, you're going to have to kind of have a team of people that keep this up. New models are going to kind of be launched. You have to make those decisions as well. So that's a real key consideration. I think the other challenge is that you have one world of context, constraints, and value. You have another world of data performance and maintenance, and they rarely talk to each other in many organizations. Most organizations I've been in, these are two completely different languages. And so there's a question of how do you bring the two together? How do you really kind of, start to have conversations about what we can and should do with AI with all of these considerations in mind from the very beginning, as opposed to kind of, an executive or someone high up saying, hey, we need AI, and then going there and finding that it's actually way too costly to do, or you can't maintain it, or it just doesn't work. Or even worse, if you start there with going, hey, we can build some cool stuff with AI, and then you get there and you find it doesn't actually add any value to users at all. So what I found is the two worlds need to talk to each other from the very beginning if you want to actually build anything meaningful. And so I was also kind of looking for like any kind of data or research to show, okay, every company is saying they're doing AI, but the companies that are actually doing it well and seeing value, what differentiates them? And I found this really interesting piece of work from a company called McKinsey, where they looked at, okay, the companies that are actually, I think it was like 4 or 5% of companies actually seeing measurable user uplift and revenue and all those kind of great business metrics from AI. And they just looked at the companies and said, how are the companies structured? What are they doing differently? And so what they found is that kind of these numbers essentially say, if a company is integrating end user focus across the organization, they are 9 times more likely to be gaining value and capturing value from AI than companies that are not doing that. So essentially, these are the set of activities where if a company is doing these things, they're far more likely to be capturing value. But what you don't see on there is like a lot of stuff where you go, okay, is a company doing AI? These are just a lot of just good agile practices and innovation practices to be doing. And what this report ultimately said is the companies that are more innovative are the ones that are getting value from AI, and the companies that have always been more innovative and the companies that move quickly, start with the user, not the technology. And so this kind of, helped me start to validate a lot of what I was seeing in the field. But then I gave myself the question, is anyone else out there taking this approach? Are there any big companies that are talking about this and talking about what they're doing? And I mean, I found a couple. Spotify is doing some interesting stuff, but the kind of biggest one I found was Duolingo. And I think they're doing some really awesome stuff, but what I love about Duolingo is they talk publicly about what they do. So last year they launched Duolingo Max, which is their Duolingo AI. They didn't call it Duolingo AI. and interestingly, when they launched it, they didn't mention AI at all. Now they mention AI a little bit because people are more aware of what's possible with AI. But essentially what Duolingo, everyone knows what Duolingo is, right? Okay, cool. Is kind of, with Duolingo Max, you can get your answer explained to you. So if you kind of type in an answer and it's wrong, it can tell you exactly why it's wrong. And then they also have a role play feature where you can have a conversation with another person in a new language. And they're essentially using kind of a large language model to facilitate that conversation. And kind of this is what it looks like. So this is kind of the role play feature. They also have kind of this new feature where you can like do an actual like voice call with their bot called Lily. And so you have a live conversation with Lily in another language. And I think what's really great about what Duolingo are doing is that they actually talk about how they're doing it, what works, what doesn't. They're kind of giving, so on the Duolingo blog, they talk about each kind of feature that they did. They talk about the process that they get, that they use to get there. And so this is an example where they talk about something they launched called Duo Radio, which is essentially like a series of podcasts within Duolingo, where if you're learning a language, you can listen to these podcasts. But they were in a world where it was really manual to create these. They had to have a whole recording studio, professional actors and scripts and everything. So they have this blog post where they talk about how they scaled it from 100K active users to 5.5 million while cutting costs by 99%. And they talk in detail about kind of what they tried with AI. So they say, okay, our first attempt, generate scripts, produce subpar results, required extensive manual editing. So they talk about each attempt, and what you really see is that what they started trying was kind of point solutions where they go, can we use AI here? Can we use AI there? And they found it really kind of, you take an existing old process and you try and integrate AI into it, just like what I showed you at the very beginning. And they really talk openly about the fact that it didn't work and they tell you the reasons. What they show you is what they ended up doing, where they completely re-architected how Duo Radio works, and where they use kind of, content generation, AI content generation, where they have humans evaluating it, but then they also show you the impact it had. And I don't think there are many companies actually doing this, where they're showing you, here's what we were doing before we kind of completely re-architected and launched it, and here's the impact it had. So there are companies that are out there that are doing this, talking about this. I think many more companies should be talking about it, because I think otherwise we're in a world where everyone's trying to do the same things. Everyone's failing, but no one really knows why they're failing or why everyone else is failing. And I'm going to wrap up in a second, but I think when I kind of boil it all down, I'm going to give you 4 steps because I used to be at McKinsey. I think the first thing is matching technology to validated problems. I think too often we tend to just go technology without any of this, but really kind of starting with validating problems, matching the technology to it with an understanding of what is and isn't possible is really that first step. Second principle is like making AI disappear into the user experience. You saw users don't want AI features, they just want a good experience. And so the more you can make AI disappear, typically the more successful you'll be. Third, validate value, not adoption. I think a lot of the AI metrics I've seen are people using our AI features and not did we actually solve a valuable problem for users by implementing this. And so I think what you measure is absolutely critical. And I think the fourth thing is don't be afraid to kill something if it's not working with AI. I think we are in a world where it's like, okay, we've done an AI thing, we can't kill it because it's AI. But I think if you kind of, are in a mindset of, if it doesn't work, let's kill it and let's actually go back and then look at problems, I really think that you'll be in a good place overall. That's the end. We have a ton of time for questions, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but hopefully that was like a decent kind of, summary of the type of work that I've been doing and what I've learned. Now, open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Tey. To warm up the room, I have a couple of questions of my own. Just think about yours, and then we'll give you the floor in a second. Yeah. The first one is, I'm going to go backwards in your presentation because it's here. But it's like you validate value, and it's often it's very important, but it's also very hard to do.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that?
How do I think? So I think it goes back to what you're actually like optimizing for and what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So like in our grocery example, they found that value for customers was, did it reduce the time it took to actually get to the basket? Did they, a lot of so we had like a list of here, like the top 25 things that customers spend a lot of time doing that is, doesn't match value. So things like looking for eggs. So those became our metrics. Mm-hmm. Our customers not only spending less time, but are they actually buying from us as a result? And so I think value doesn't have to be one big number to say, here is the value of our AI program. But if you anchor it in what the problems you're solving for customers, I think that the net result is you see kind of an uplift in those business metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And how do you, if I bring you back to like the shoes of the PM who has to kind of answer this question of where are you going to put AI there? How do you have tips and tricks as to how to reframe that conversation with your executive or your boss?
Yeah. I think the first question should always be why. And I think seriously, because I think the more you understand where an executive is coming from, what pressures they have, because a lot of times you're not privy to, was there a boardroom conversation or something? I think if you understand why, you go, maybe there's pressure to, just be performing full stop, we're not doing well. Maybe it might be, competition, increased competition. But I think when you understand why, you can go, what do we need to think through or add to the roadmap where what we measure is aligned to where that pressure is coming from? Yeah.
Makes sense. Maybe a last one for me is, I might be taking you outside of your comfort zone. Do you have you've spoken a lot about B2C examples, right? Yeah. Really thinking about the direct customer. Mm-hmm. Do you have a B2B examples of where you've applied that thinking through?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is strictly B2B, but I've done a bit of work in kind of insurance where you have a big insurer selling to lots of businesses instead of individuals. So like if I have a small company, I go, how do I insure my stuff? I think that like the biggest thing I've seen there is even to a higher degree, customers don't care about AI. And because a lot of times, like again, and especially if you're in an industry where they can easily switch, there's more of a fear of, if we don't do this, they're gonna jump across to a competitor. With B2B, I think what I found there is really understand who your buyer is, understand what they're seeing on the market, and understand, again, like the problems that you can solve for them that actually kind of lead to value for you. But I think B2B is interesting because you have kind of a disparate range of kind of perceptions, and you have companies themselves trying to do AI who are your customers, so it can be a little bit convoluted, but again, really understanding who your buyer is, I've found is the most valuable. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Do we have any questions in the room? Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Yes.
So hi, first of all, thanks for the presentation. I work in the fashion industry, and currently we have a lot of different business units, different GPT models. Everybody is trying to push for their favorite tools. How do you answer an IT consultant who is telling you need to go for one tool for all instead of each department picking out their own tool? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. And so just so I'm clear, so you already have a situation where teams are doing their own thing, but you also have a consultancy you're working with coming in to say you need to get rid of this and have one tool, right? Yeah.
Actually, I think it's a good question because I've introduced some companies, and I feel like the main challenge right now is bringing multiple departments around similar AI practices. So how do you scale the American side, right?
Yeah. And so I think I've been in a situation where we've gone into a company, this is while I was at McKinsey, where they essentially was a free-for-all. Every department could essentially decide which tools do we use, which vendors do we bring in. And the most drastic example, which really worked, was working with a company that said, we're gonna shut this all down. So they said, any vendors you're speaking to, any tools you're using, we're gonna shut it down, but we're all going to actually understand what is the vision, where do we wanna be as a company? And when I say what is that vision, I mean, how do we wanna work in future? So using an understanding of what's possible with AI, but also going, okay, if, for example, you have your marketing department, and what you can do with AI is content generation and a bunch of things, it's not just about bringing a single point solution, but if you go, okay, can we completely cut out this part of the process? Can marketing be working differently with the data teams? But having that vision for, okay, here is really clearly how we want to work, then you get to a place where you go, what are the tools that will actually facilitate that? And very rarely is it one tool. Like, I mean, I've worked with so many companies that have brought in Copilot for everyone, and one, it sucks, two, no one's using it. and so I don't think there's ever one right answer, but I think if you really start from, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to cut efficiency by 5% by having people send emails a little bit better? Or are we trying to fundamentally kind of rethink the way the company works? I think you get to a place where whatever the answer is, it's aligned with something where like all those teams and departments really have a clear direction to go in. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Can I add to that? Because that's actually a quite interesting question. I kind of have a first-hand experience in this. My partner and wife actually works in a fashion industry, and they just recently gone on to fully implementing one of the AI tools. I personally believe, although I'm not involved, I think that was the wrong choice. And I think they used one particular platform that is fabulous for ideation, but it is actually not the right product for the fashion industry, which probably shows that a lot of people hop on the bandwagon, shall we say. And yes, all the tools, I've tried them all pretty much myself, and a lot of them are left behind. There are only one or two that I believe that industry specific. And I think the problem is that marketing and management do not do their homework with tool requirements and what the tool is going to do for you. So they went with one of them. It's still a brilliant one. It's one of the top three, at least in my opinion. But the one they should have gone for would have probably tripled the creativity in terms of real product delivery.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think research, okay, look, there's DeepSeek, there is ChatGPT, there is Claude, there is Perplexity, blah, blah, blah. I think what differentiates all of those is that your specific need. And again, when you talk about UX and implementation of these tools, I think a lot of people just haphazardly pick one because they like either the look or God knows what else, but the research behind it is still miles behind the choice of the product that you want to research or do the work with.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's really true. And I actually have, do we have like 3 minutes?
Yeah, definitely. So, go for it.
So I was working with a fashion company. This is like just under a year ago. And they were fairly large, and I mean, they're like in, I don't know, 70 or 80 countries, but they have their headquarters in London, and they have their photo studio in London as well, because they don't use supplier images. They want to photo shoot every single item that goes on their website, because part of their philosophy is you don't just wear a t-shirt, you wear a t-shirt with pants and shoes, and so they want to kind of, they have someone who runs the studio, and they have a team that go, okay, we have, 150 items to shoot today. We're going to pair this one with this one and with this model and so on. So they have that whole process they've had for years. They also have, so essentially how the process works is items come in, they go to the photo studio, they might take, 30 to 50 shots per item. then that goes to the what they call their kind of digital product team that selects, okay, for the website, we're going to take these 8 items. That product team also tags them, also writes the product descriptions, and they have the marketing teams who also create campaigns using these images. These are 3 very separate teams. And they were in a place where the marketing teams were using kind of some Adobe tools for creating marketing campaigns. You had some teams using Runway and Gemini to try things, but what they ended up doing was completely restructuring the way that whole process works. And so what happens today is instead of, so they still have that team that decides, okay, which items go with which, but rather than taking 20 to 50 images, they now take a video. So the model walks up, a video films it, but then they have a model that selects the 10 best photos from that video based historically on the photos that work well for marketing campaigns and products. And within that same process, the tagging happens automatically and the descriptions happen automatically using a large language model. And then the marketing team essentially get delivered, here are your assets, and the website assets automatically go to the website. But that wouldn't have happened if those 3 teams hadn't come together to go, how do we work? What are our frictions and pain points? And how could we reimagine a new process and workflow? I think they would have been in a world where each of those teams were still doing very separate things. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Thank you. I think we had a couple more questions. I'm going to go this way. Yeah?
Thank you. Hi. In the last part, I saw that about don't use AI in customer experience. In the last part, I
said that?
Yeah. If you can go back. No.
Make it disappear.
Oh, this one.
Make disappear.
Yes.
In the user experience. Yes. In my case, I have a question. For example, if you have an agent can answer to you in different languages.
Yeah.
And for the other hand, you need to the context store somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
How can I avoid AI in the user experience in this case?
So you mean, for example, this is like customer service or
whatever?
Yeah. I don't think it's about avoiding AI. I think it's about really going, okay, like understanding what the user is trying to do. If they have a problem and it's a customer service query, then you don't need to say, hey, our AI can understand every language. You just let them type or let them say what they want to say, and then you give them a response that aligns with what they're trying to do in the language that they've set it in. Am I misunderstanding the question?
Because before you was talking about the chat,
Yeah.
This was not used.
Okay.
In order to use the chat, I use the agent.
Yeah.
By the voice. You know?
I mean, there are
in
some.
That case,
there are sometimes a chatbot is the right thing, but also most users don't want to use a chatbot. I think there's a lot of research to show that people just try and avoid the chatbot and want to speak to a human. So, but I think there are instances where they work well, and I think they work well because what people have been attuned to is you put something into a chatbot and it gives you like a set of canned responses, as opposed to really kind of like understanding your intent and giving you the response straight away. Mm-hmm. And I think the ones I've seen work well are where they take a combination of, okay, we see this user's behavior on the website or whatever, or we have this customer data. So it's almost like when they type something, we almost already know what their problem is, and we can give them a response straight away. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think there was a question here as well.
It is a little bit connected to this. So I've found myself, or I've been telling myself that my job now is to inoculate against the coming crash, and because I think that LLMs are a really good technology, but just that the people they've been told the wrong things, they've been told a lie, and because of that they have all this magical thinking, and like there's going to be this whiplash where they're going to go like, oh yeah, it was all wrong. No, it's actually really good. So I really like that, make it disappear. But you said like when somebody asks you like, I want to use AI, and you say like, why? Do you have any other tricks to inoculate people against the coming crash?
Yeah, I really like to show people examples, because I think from why you also like tend to start understanding, okay, not just what is the pressure or why do you want to do this, but also what do you actually think is possible? And I think the more like you use different tools and so on, the more you understand, okay, like there's some things that LLMs aren't good for.
Yeah.
And so I think having a conversation to go, okay, like what are you trying to do? Like what's your idea or vision? And then showing them examples where it just doesn't work, or like even like going to ChatGPT. Like one thing I like to do is like I'll open up like 4 ChatGPT windows, put in the same thing 4 times and show them that you get different responses every single time. Some subtly, some drastically. Like the instances where like you put in something and one goes, I can't tell you that, the other tells you it. And so I think that's just a simple example where you just show them that, okay, this idea you have in mind, this is how the technology really works. Do you still, does that idea still hold? I think as humans, if we see something, it works much better than if someone just tries to tell us why it's wrong. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Who's next?
Thank you.
Hello? Sorry, I think that's actually a very good point of what you just said about double checking yourself or triple checking yourself. I recently did an experiment in Claude. The page goes on from here to Moscow, but it actually gave me something in terms of health benefits, which is obviously very dubious when it comes to AI. However, the final thing that I got, I went through all the other AI tools, and 95% of all other 5 give me pretty much nearly spot on results.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it comes back to doing your research. If you ask blasé questions, if you ask, unrelated stuff or not very specific ones, which obviously comes back to do a bit of research. And I think with all this AI, I think everyone's just going blindly into it without any point that they want to get to. Okay, so I think just keeping to one tool is firstly a mistake. And I think if you're very blasé, if you're just into the fad of it, I think that's a massive mistake. Because you are going to get what you want to hear.
That's true,
Because once the LM knows how you work, whether you like it or not, it does happen. Once you have this conversation, etc., it will give you exactly what you want to hear, unfortunately. And make no mistake, it doesn't, because I've tested it. So make sure if you have a research project, you double, triple, or quadruple check it with other tools, because you may be up for a bit of a surprise.
That's true.
But in this case, that of what I've done, I'd say 90 to 95% was spot on.
Nice.
Because it had a project in there.
Thank you. Maybe we have a couple more questions, and I think the pizza are getting a little bit cold.
Sorry. So I just, firstly, I mean, for the tooling, I would say, like, if you keep on tracking of all the newly published, like all the new AI models and open source, all like the big, closed ecosystem, every day on the Twitter, you're gonna really be, your mind gonna be blow up because it's so quick. Every day, they're gonna be every, new workflow, all the agentic, like intelligence workflow. I mean, that is maybe also fascinating. I mean, for the tooling testing and then the new methods, I feel so I think it's, as an individual, it's really difficult to grasp and all the landscape about the new, the edge of the technology of the AI. First, I would admit from my personal experience, and so I think based on that, if I further like to extend the question, I feel like for the tooling, I would suggest just focus on what you really, your purpose and what is a real world problem is. So you're gonna do some research and trying to dig deeper. because I feel it's the most amazing part of the LLM is just to facilitate everyone to do the research and to go deeper on the use scenario. Secondly, and because I think the examples and during the presentation is super nice, you talk a lot about the B2C example scenarios. As myself is like doing also some startups and automate, help the clients and to automate their internal procedure and so on. But but it's mainly our B2B facing clients. So also based in Luxembourg, so they are kind of really strengths a lot about the compliance and about how you're gonna the topic mainly by such events in Luxembourg gonna put first. The sovereignty of the model and so on is not gonna directly talk about. So what you're gonna to more for a project kind of for education for the clients this perspective. So it's very different. But I would say come back to the discussion we just had. I feel for example fashion industry. I think so for this case, and you need to consider, okay, so what kind of the data, proprietary data you collected from the clients and so on, is that sensible, confidential? So that is also a dimension, right? So you're gonna based on this, then you need to consider a fit and suitable technology which can be put into production use, and also I think for the B2B. The logic, I don't know. I also want to ask you, and based on your project experience, for the B2B clients, what kind of, also for themselves, the resistance to adopt the new technology and to reduce, because the B2B, from my understanding, they already use some very established API, like automated API, for the financial data transfer or for some. The supplier data transfer or take the new order when also, fill up the storage and so on. So So basically, I feel for the B2B, it's gonna be more easier to adapt because it's more, the machine interface behind maybe. So what is the resistance? I want to also ask about this.
I think I remember seeing a report recently saying that adoption is the #1 challenge that enterprises are facing when they try bringing AI tools. I think a lot of it goes back to what we talked about earlier, where if you don't involve those employees, those departments in the decision making to actually understand, okay, what are we trying to do? And if you don't involve them in that decision making, that's when you tend to get a lot of that resistance. We don't have time, but maybe I have a few kind of examples where I've done that type of work around just improving adoption, and so we can chat afterwards about it. Cool. Thanks for the question. That's it.
Go for it.
I'm gonna go very quick. So what we hear about AI projects in companies is okay, but you have to show the value. What value? What is it? What is the KPIs it's impacting? But my question is, would it be a good answer to give the stakeholders to say, just because others are doing it, because other companies, other competitors are having AI. Okay, I don't know the KPI it's impacting right now, but it might be. It's just because everyone's doing it, and we don't want to fall behind.
No, it's a great reason to do anything.
Is it?
I'm kidding. Sorry.